The views expressed here are those of the authors and do not in any way represent the views of Sophia TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Ladies First. I'm joined here by my panelists Fahmida, Sumaya, Nishat and of course myself. My question to you ladies is, how important is it to keep the sparks alive in a marriage? Does Islam promote that? And if so, can you explain how? And go ahead.
Islam is not robotic. It's not emotionally centric, but emotionally driven. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not just a series of Sharia, like it's haram, halal, this is halal, this has to be haram, you know. It is fueled by emotion is what I'm trying to say. And I think it's really important in a marriage to keep things spiced up, or, you know,
are we promoted to do this? Is this Islamically said to us, or is it another ideal that has been watered down to us via TV?
It is promoted. You're always encouraged to keep your spouse happy, and if that means sometimes, like Sumaya said, if life has become too robotic, and to keep each other happy, you have to spice it up a little. Then that it is encouraged.
You have to keep the spark alive. You have to keep your spouse interested. You have to keep each other on.
Okay, I'm going to throw another question out there. We have to. It's encouraged, right? But how often is the responsibility thrown on the woman as opposed to the man, or is it equal?
No, it's always 80-20 or 90-10.
To who? To the woman.
I
think personally, in my marriage, I think my husband works equally, if not more, to keep things more romantic.
Oh, mashallah, that's really nice to know.
I mean, not to say that I haven't.
No, you don't do anything.
Yeah, but I think he does. He's always like, oh, let's go out together to do something, or or if he sees something, he'll like, oh, we should do that as well.
So where do you think that he got that from? Do you think it was an example of maybe his parents or his community, or is it just something that
I don't know what his parents were like when, and I was too young. I think I do know his parents, of course, but I don't know how they were when they were as a couple, because I never judged or looked at them in that way. But I think he's also very religious. So he knows that the Prophet has encouraged making sure that your spouse is happy.
Some of the marriages that I grew up seeing, there was no romance to begin with. The idea of taking the wife to even across the road, the park was across the road, for a romantic walk, it was just not in their remit. I just want to take this opportunity to say, whilst we're on this show, that a lot of men from certain cultural backgrounds, I'm not going to say which cultural backgrounds, I don't want to offend anybody, they really need to step up. There is nothing that breaks a woman's heart more than when her husband doesn't sit on the sofa with her and they watch a rom-com together. And you would be surprised. I know couples that have never sat down on the same sofa together and they've been married for 15 years. I'm talking about, okay, maybe I'm taking a very extreme example here, but there are things that maybe some couples do in their marriage that they just completely take for granted.
But maybe, is it a generational thing? Because if you think about maybe your grandparents, the idea of romance wasn't there. It was, okay, we've gotten married, we've got children to raise, people to feed, majlises to go to.
I think it doesn't have to come from your grandparents. I'll tell you.
No, I'm just saying the generation.
But you're right in saying that you do become like what you see. So my grandfather, for example, raised 5 boys on his own. Okay, because his wife passed away at a very young age. My father, my whole family says, I wish we had a husband like Uncle Shabir.
Right.
My father didn't have anyone to see that too, but they all loved him because of the way he was with his wife. He would take pictures with her holding my mom, and and everyone wants to have that pose like the one that Uncle Shabir and Nasim had. So I don't think it's necessarily what you see, but I also agree that you do grow up to become what you have seen.
Yeah.
Do we need classes on what relationships are? Do we sometimes feel that, okay, we get married and the day after there's dishes maybe to do, and, you know, what happens when we have our first argument? Do we just presume that we'll naturally get married and we'll just slot into our roles and everything gels?
Yeah. Do you know how many girls I've spoken to the day after marriage or the week after marriage, and do you know what they say? They go, they're on the phone to me and they go, yeah, Fahmida, it's all right. Yeah, I'm all right. And they're so, some of them go into shock because they're so disappointed with what they've been landed with the day after or the week after marriage. Some of them actually become ill. They actually become mentally and physically ill because they had this expectation. Even if some of them really modified their expectations, they just wanted something to get by.
Is it because they're not very realistic about what to expect?
I feel that we need to take, as she said, we need to take a pre-marriage course, any class, go to any workshop, do whatever it takes to get a hang of what you're getting into. Do not just feel that it's not like a movie or a fairy tale, that it's going to be all, you know,
glamorous traveling and
you know, it's not like that at all. So you need to take, and these courses will teach you the art of compromising, you know, living with in-laws, and, you know, expectation versus reality. You know, it's going to teach you a lot of things,
and it also
and
tells
you go prepared. So there are less chances. Like I saw, someone just recently told me that one of the reasons that Catholics have a lower divorce rate is because it is compulsory for them to take at least minimum 1 hour course before the marriage to get to know what they're getting. It is compulsory. There are courses designed specifically. If you do register in a church to go, there are courses readily available on their websites that you need to, and if not, at least a minimum 1 hour class before you get into it.
But
go ahead,
I was going to add to that. They might teach you all these things, but do they teach you about romance, and do they teach you about how to keep it all flowery and spiced up?
But this is what I said, I think is needed on both sides. I think the first thing we need is courses on communication. That, you know, once you get married, it's you and that person. So it's not like I'm just going to go to my mum's house now, you've annoyed me. It's you and that person. And how do you, you know, your first argument, is it make or break? You know, sometimes as women, we will never forget that first argument that we ever had. And, you know, anything you do afterwards, we're going back to the straight up first argument we've had. So we need that. And we need to manage expectations. I think a lot of males males in general think it's kind of ridiculous to be romantic or show emotion in public. How many scholars do we know, and this might be a hijab issue, so maybe that's the reason they don't do it, who speak about their wives in lectures, or, I don't know, sit at the same table, just the both of them at a function, or I don't know, maybe pretend that they know one another because they've been married for 25 years. You know, how many
fingers maybe if there's an exception.
So how are we meant to get examples of, you know, how we should conduct ourselves with our partners if our scholars aren't even meant? Half the time I don't even, is he married, is he not? Oh, that's his wife, but I've seen you for 20 years and didn't know.
I didn't know that was the wife.
Exactly. So I think we need the scholars to set examples, because we do look to them. And we need to have courses for male and females, because what you might think is romantic, like if someone bought me flowers every day, I would probably throw them in the bin. But what I may want, might be different to what.
Like some men, they're right, you know, but for them, a romantic time together might be engaging in extreme sports, like rally race cars, and they would love it if their wife.
I just say my mum did that with my dad. She was a co-driver for my dad, and he was a car
There
racer.
you go. So you work, Nishat, you work at an Islamic centre or school. What are the pre-marriage courses there like? Do you have any?
They're intense. We get certificates at the end, don't we?
Trophies and who's the better husband. I think not my madrasa, but my community, my mosque does it.
Thank you.
I came across this book, I think when I was engaged or something, and it's a very good book for people out there. It's called 5 Love Language, and it's by Dr. Gary Chapman. So they basically, what they're trying to say is that everyone is fluent in one love language.
Yes.
But what you need, the key to this is that you're supposed to learn and appreciate the love language of your partner, so you can love them the way they feel.
I think my mosque, when they do the course, they talk about this.
Yeah. So I think this is an amazing book, and we should come and talk about these, go to these courses to learn.
Yeah, and how to communicate, because like I gave an example, my friend's husband, he always buys her yellow flowers on a Friday after Jummah. And I was like, mashallah, that's so wonderful. And she was like, I want to kill him. I hate the colour yellow. We've been married for 15 years. I don't know how to tell.
Red instead.
She has. She's even gone and checked, but he's fixated on yellow flowers. So we had the discussion.
There's a message there.
No, it was routine. It was what he
just
knew.
Sort of did it kind of robotically.
Exactly, and the shop he would go to always had yellow flowers, and he couldn't deviate. But once she understood that he cannot change, she was like, okay, I understand. But they needed to have that discussion.
Appreciate it. The man is buying you flowers, for God's sake.
No, but she's like, I hate yellow flowers.
Some women don't even get flowers.
But for her,
it's the thought.
No, but for her, she had told
is,
him numerous occasions that I hate yellow carnations.
Yeah.
I've had a traumatic memory to do with this flower.
Carnations.
I didn't think she was hearing she had a traumatic experience. I think she got stung by a bee from one or something. But he wasn't listening, so she was taking that as an insult, like, are you winding me up with this yellow flower business? And he was like, I just can't change. I just think flowers, and the man always has the yellow carnation at the time I come. I was like, okay, yeah. But once she knew that, but she needed to be educated in, let's see why he's doing this. That might be his love language, to say, look, I'm doing a routine, can I just get some credit for it, please?
Exactly, that's what I was coming to, because the point is that I might be the kind of girl that would want quality time with my husband. But my husband would think, because he likes receiving lots of gifts, he would think that, you know what, if I give her a diamond ring, she's going to be happy and she'll feel loved. But I won't, because we haven't had that communication. We don't know each other that well to know that what...
I think the diamond ring and the quality time for me.
I'll give you an example.
You're talking about like...
Just... You know.
You're talking about a very deep emotional connection. I just very quickly, in relation to this point about communication, a very, very big study has been done recently. I can't remember the name of the study. I will try and find it, about what makes or breaks a marriage. So 20 couples were followed over 10 to 15 years. Half of them split up, half of them are still together. And one of the elements that helped the married couples stay married was the fact it's a really small gesture when the husband would say, oh wow, because he might like bird spotting, I really love this bird, it's beautiful, and the wife would take an interest and say, oh my God, look at the colours on that bird. But the couples that ended up getting divorced, when the wife would say, oh, look at my new gold bracelet, isn't it? And the husband goes, yeah, whatever, whatever, it's just a regular gold bracelet. Those couples ended up in divorce. Now that's just one element. That's just one element.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
but it's so fundamental.
I think
so fundamental.
In saying that, Fahmida, I have become a Liverpool supporter because my husband is as well. So you're saying I am going to be with him for life.
Exactly. I'm a Tottenham supporter. There you go.
I think it would be good if pre-marriage we had courses, or even at engagement stage, where we had mentor systems. So someone who has been in a marriage that has the same, similarities as you for 10 years, and somebody who hasn't, who can advise you. Because sometimes we look at our parents and they don't have all the answers, or we feel a bit embarrassed that we don't want to be confrontational, or we feel that we could do it better than them. And to see both sides, so you know, what are the pros and cons of being divorced, and what would they change? Because most of the time, hindsight being 20/20, if you could change things, most of the time there is something you would change in the person or in yourself. And look at practical things, because when you get married, nobody has that discussion about there are going to be some really awkward discussions, or he's going to put his socks over there, and he, and then you really internalize that. So I think we need step by step.
When you're upset about, or if you have an argument about one aspect of something, you do not take that upset to other aspects as well. So for example, if you've become upset about the sock, you do not then have the same, or you don't speak to him, or when it comes to other things. So for example, when he have guests round, just because he's upset you an hour before, that doesn't mean you give him attitude while the guests are there.
Hope we've given our audience some tips there from our own experiences and other experiences. Really enjoyed the discussion. Inshallah, I hope to go to have my one-to-one discussion with Sister Masuma Jaffa. I'm really excited to have Sister Masuma Jaffa with me to have our wonderful one-to-one discussion. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Love and romance. How important is it to keep the sparks alive?
I'm so glad you mentioned love and romance, because when you were talking to the panelists, it wasn't sort of so out there. Okay, my view is that love only comes, true love is only there after marriage, after the nikah or the muta is recited. Because, and I'll give you my proof.
Okay,
don't look at me like that.
I'm thinking.
Okay, my proof is that in Surah Rum, Surah number 30, verse 21, Allah says that He gifts within the marriage love and mercy. If we've already got love, what's He gifting it to us? It's obviously something we don't have. That's why He's gifting it to us. And can you imagine the gift of love that comes from Allah? Imagine how strong that would be. Imagine how beautiful if you could hold on to that love and actually work with that love, with that tool that God gave you, how successful our marriages would be. And I know you're going to ask.
No, I haven't thought about it like that. It's the way that you put it. I think a lot of the time, and maybe I can only speak as a girl and as a woman, that you're often looking for that spark, often looking for that connection, that click, I don't know, something. I'm not talking about being infatuated with them, but some kind of, well, can I see myself with them in 5 years, and do I want to wake up next to this person?
The thing is, people change so much. So, I mean, when you're looking at someone now, you can't imagine what they're going to be like sort of 30, 40 years on. You know, you can't imagine what sort of parent they're going to make. You can't imagine what sort of, I mean...
but we do sometimes. Sometimes we plan, the names of our children before.
No, for sure. But what I'm saying is, like, I think, I think you'd never know a person till you've, lived with them for quite a few years. I know, like, when I got engaged, there was no such thing as engagement as such.
But I understand,
when we had the nikah recited, because we were going to have a long sort of engagement period. So we had the nikah recited, and we had, I think, about just under 2-year engagement period. And I got to know my husband quite well. And then when we actually had the actual walima, the sort of official wedding at the mosque and everything, and I moved in, I was quite surprised at some of the things that he did and things, because I was thinking, I didn't really know him, or I wouldn't have expected him to react this way or do this. I mean, they're not negative things at all.
Naturally, you find things.
And I found that I got to know him a little bit better, and we were living with our in-laws initially. And then when I got pregnant, we decided to move out because there wasn't enough space in the house and so forth. And when we lived on our own, again, there was another side to him that I saw. And I just thought, and it's like people say, how can you live with someone when you don't get to know them? But you don't really get to know them until you've lived with them for a few years, and they just relax, and all those, barriers come down, and they become themselves. And again, now, I think he's a totally different person to who he was when I married him. In the same way, I'm a totally different person. I've grown, my views have changed so much and things. So I think it's a learning experience. It's a growth. There's just so much in it, and I don't think you'd actually ever know the person that you're going to marry fully anyway And I think that's why the trust in Allah has to be there when you're looking for a partner.
Have we been sold a Hollywood dream, like this idea of, because I'm thinking about when you look at your grandparents, for example, well, I don't know, they, like you said, they grew to love each other. I was going to say tolerate, but they grew to love each other, etc. But it wasn't none of any of this, you know, let's romance each other, let's go for a walk, which I think is, you know, it's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think it is needed. I think, you know, and Islam encourages that. Islam encourages for the you know, both the husband and the wife to ensure that they take care of themselves and look presentable, look, you know, something that you know, when you look at your husband, you want to feel that wow factor. When he looks at you, you want him to feel, oh, I'm so lucky to have her as my wife. You know, imagine as a woman, you've covered yourself up because you don't want other men to see. Obviously, then you want to look the most beautiful for your husband. This is who you've saved yourself for.
Or you could be really tired and from work, and you don't really want to be dressed
but
up
again,
in your...
I don't have to go to work. What
Yes,
is more rewarding for me? What is more rewarding for me is to actually, you know, dress up for my husband.
But how often do males do that for females?
Again, I mean, my husband does it for me, and I'd ask him to if he did. This is where we go wrong. Our husbands ask us to dress up.
Yes.
When we look a mess, they'll turn around and say, look, can you just do yourself up a little bit?
Yeah.
Why do we not do the same to our husbands? Why do we feel that they just should know it? Or they should just do it? No, ask them. If you feel that your husband's not dressing up for you, then tell him, look, you know, I'd like you to wear this. Actually buy him something that you like him to wear and say to him, look, you know, this would look really good on you.
Can I ask something really weird? Just come into my head. Well,
I wouldn't expect anything less.
You know, our scholars and etc., why don't they ever hold their wives' hands and stuff? I've seen one person do it, and it was like the most shocking thing ever. But I thought it kind of made them look human for everybody else. And is there something wrong with that?
I don't think there is.
I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice to see? Are we not allowed to hold hands in public?
I think public affection, there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's not obviously...
I'm just saying hands.
Yeah.
Or maybe arm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think it's, again, I think it's a culture issue, and I think it's, you know, it's sort of from the cultures that they come from, it's not something that is the norm. It's a very sort of, you know, Western thing to do, is to walk down the street holding hands and things. It's you wouldn't see it so much.
Well, you do see it in the Middle East. You see a lot of, you know,
again, with the youngsters, with the young. I mean, I grew up and I never saw my parents ever showing any affection to each other. I'm sure they did, but no, I never saw it as a child, and it wasn't the done thing. Whereas now, I think parents tend to sort of, you know, show affection, and I think it's a good thing, because I think most parents try not to have rows in front of their children, but I think every so often you do, because you'd have some sort of conflict, and you know it comes across, even if you haven't shouted at each other or, you know, had that discussion in front of the children, they can feel the tension, and if they've also seen the love, then they're not worried.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Do you think the onus is most often on the female to be the one who, as we said, spruces up, or, you know, does things to reignite, I don't know, romance, etc.?
I think romance is more important for the female. And if it's something that's important for you, then why would you not do it?
And is this taught to males? Because I feel there needs to be, like,
I think
men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
That's actually a very good book to read. It's actually very, very good. It sort of, you know, makes you realise that your husband's not doing it just to wind you up. That's exactly. You know, that's how men are, and that's how women are. But I think it's also the concept of different love languages. You know, we all have different love languages, and there are certain things. So, for example, it's like I'll say to my husband, I don't want you to go out there and buy me, you know, I don't know, a diamond necklace or something like that, because, you know, it's not about the money. It's about how much thought you put into the gift. I'd rather have, you know, something that he's, you know, done with his own hands, and he's, you know, like I don't know, just, I don't know, I can't think of anything.
Something that's taken some thought.
Exactly,
and
some
effort,
thought and some effort from him, not just sort of, you know, putting cash out there and just getting it. So again, different people are different. Whereas I know women who would love to have diamond necklaces and things. So, you know, and again, I think we need to tell our spouses what we want. I think as women we hold back. A lot of the times as women we expect our husbands to read our minds. They can't. You know, they really can't. It's like if I tell my husband, if I'm feeling upset with him and he asks me, are you okay? And I say yes, he's not going to pick up on the tone. He's just going to say, oh, well, she said yes, okay, so she's fine.
Do you think I was just thinking, there was an article by a Muslim sister, and she was really advising women on what they should do in order to keep their husbands so their attention doesn't go anywhere, etc. Do you think we should be saying the same to men? Like, don't assume that just because you've been with us for 5 years that we're, you know, it's fine, you put on weight, we're going to be fine, but if we put on weight, you'll be the first to. I feel like, must we always be like, you know, the television set on and like trying to get their attention?
I think generally when we have children, we get, because of the emotional bond that a mother has for her child, we get so caught up in the rearing of the children that the husband gets forgotten to a certain extent. And I think that's why that onus is on us to actually remember that he has needs as well. And, you know, we can't sort of put him on the side while we bring up the children. And I think that's the main thing. Whereas, you know, for the husband, I think, again, it's like, if he has put on a little bit of weight, then tell him. You know, if that's, you know, if you don't like it, then tell him. But I think generally they themselves, they don't have things that sort of pull the, you know, okay, the career or whatever. But again, it's something, unless you're really career focused, it's usually something you go, you work, you come back home, and then you know, you want to be with your wife because that's who you've chosen to be with. So they're not as focused on the children generally as much as women are. And I think that's why we sort of say, oh, you know, you need to take care of yourself, you need to spend some time with your husband.
Are there any examples that you can give me of, you know, people that we look up to in Islam and Islamic history that promoted romance and promoted, the romance, basically?
I think you have, you know, again, what happens behind closed doors, we don't know. But I think, you know, the fact that, you know, you have, you know, where the Holy Prophet spent time with his wives, and he would actually make time out to make sure that he has spent time with his wives, shows that he did take into consideration their needs and the fact that they needed that time with him. So even though he was so busy doing everything else, you know, he would make sure that he gave them that time that they needed as well.
And doing things that they wanted to do, because sometimes
again,
they can be.
I'm sure they. You know.
Because I don't know how true this hadith is, but there's an example that he took certain of his wives to watch a sword thing, a sword production. I don't know where that came from,
that, so
but because it was one of his wives, apparently she won't like that type of stuff. But I don't know. I said I don't know where it came from, but I have heard that several times. So
we have hadith that the best of men are the ones who are the most merciful towards their wives, the ones that take care of their wives, you know, with mercy. And again, merciful means to sort of, you know, treat them with that love and, you know, with sort of fulfilling their needs as well.
That's so important. I really love the way you ended our episode. I hope you've got a lot from this episode, and I do hope that anything we have told you has touched your heart. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.